On February 16, 2021, I drove my husband to the emergency room. He'd been sick with COVID for about 10 days and fainted the night before. I never expected that he wouldn't return home with me.
This is the story of how I nearly lost my life and was blessed with a second chance.
Brandon and I met at just the right time. Both having been previously divorced, Brandon with one son, me with two, we quickly found something special in our connection. We had a blissful, easygoing courtship. Brandon had proposed on a family vacation on the Texas coast. I was overjoyed to have finally found the one that God set aside for me. The wedding was beautiful, our marriage was effortless, and our relationship was joyous and unwavering.
And then just 17 months later, our easygoing life was under sudden and brutal attack.
This COVID virus that we'd all heard so much about by now found its way into our home. The rest of us passed it without much notice, but Brandon's body took it very hard. After about 10 days, Brandon was not improving, and overnight he actually fainted. We had bought a pulse ox monitor due to the virus, and they checked him while he was still lying on the cold, hard floor. It was 74%, dangerously low. After some time, it recovered it back into the 90s, so he just felt like going back to bed. I'm not sure how much we slept or didn't. In the morning, I reached out to his family and they adamantly insisted we go to the emergency room. We didn't dare speak of it, but all the stories we'd heard about loved ones being separated due to quarantine protocols was reeling in the back of our minds. Together, we felt invincible, but the thought of being separated was paralyzing. Long story short, they advised to be admitted, which meant an ambulance ride 30 minutes to the nearest city hospital from our small town, and a drive home for me without my husband.
As the days progressed, it seemed fairly manageable, as long as I had oxygen support, until the night of February 28th.
My phone rang about 12:30 and woke with horrifying news. Brandon's lungs collapsed, and they were going to have to sedate him, intubate him, and put him on a ventilator. I remember clearly being in our backyard one day while we were still apart from each other. He was texting me some of the details of his struggles that day. I held firm to my belief that God was fully sovereign over Brandon, and I asked him if he trusted me and if he trusted God. He said he did. From that moment forward, we were both fully relying on God to ensure that Brandon would be coming home to me and the boys.
But that belief and trust didn't make the days easy. Not at all.
3 days later, I was finally allowed in the hospital since they no longer considered the virus contagious. Two special physicians met with me, explained their recommended treatment plan. They proposed an alternative life support method called ECMO. It sounded like a very big deal. It is.
ECMO, which is short for extracorporeal membrane oxygenation, is one of the most extreme forms of life support. It's a highly invasive procedure where the blood is removed from the body, oxygenated by a machine, and returned, essentially taking over the work of the lungs, or even the heart and lungs. It's only used when all other options have failed. For us, hearing of this proposed treatment was frightening. It meant my condition was declining further.
The physician said that he was the perfect candidate, and the ventilator was causing further damage to his lungs. So we signed off and prayed for the best.
Days passed, infections came and went. Complications came and went, and came again. It was a constant roller coaster of critical illness, hills and valleys. There was so much going on with incessant testing, 4 a.m. wake-ups for daily chest x-rays, nausea, anxiety, delirium. The clinical, emotional, and physical challenges were relentless.
Beginning in late April and continuing in May, there had been increasing discussions that Brandon's lungs may not heal as we had all been hoping and planning. Talks of transplant became more common. His heart was continuing to display signs of distress. The cardiac element of this was that the right ventricle of your heart is designed to pump blood into your lungs to be oxygenated and then pumped out and circulated through your entire body. Well, since his lungs were not only stiff, scarred, damaged at this point, but portions were actually necrotic. They were dying. The right ventricle was overworked. It was like a balloon that was getting inflated larger, and the walls were stretched thin, making his blood pressure very low. We'd seen quite a few instances over the last few months of cardiac distress and what they call right ventricle dysfunction. Once already, they'd added an arterial line to his ECMO system to bypass the right ventricle, giving it a bit of a break. But this is not ideal, and they tried to only do that for 4 to 7 days at the max. Easter was approaching, and I was not the only one thinking that perhaps a resurrection miracle would be God's gift to us. So once again, I went to sleep in prayer with hopes of a brighter day. I was startled awake by a phone call at 2:30. It was one of our favorite physicians, but his tone was heavy and solemn. He explained to me that Brandon's blood pressure had been dipping to very low levels. They had done everything that would typically trigger a positive response, but nothing was effective. He told me I should come to the hospital. While getting myself ready to leave, I called my mom to share what I'd been told, quivering and shivering in emotion, fear, and desperation. I called Brandon's mom to tell her the same. I distinctly recall yelling at God, "No, do not take him from me. Do not take him from me. This is not what we talked about. You gave me peace throughout this, that he was going to be okay. Please don't take him from me." It was a long drive. What did you feel at that time?
If I remember correctly, this was the night that they handed me the phone.
No, that was the first intubation.
Okay.
This one was you were out
Well,
of it.
then at that point, yeah, I didn't know that anything had happened to me. I guess until I started waking up.
So upon arrival, I was directed into a small office just across from Brandon's room, which was fully opened up and overflowing with doctors, nurses, equipment of all kinds. They had the chaplain in the office with me for support. After some time, the crowd dispersed, and finally the doctors came out to update me. Brandon's heart had stopped while I was driving to the hospital. He coded. He was lifeless for 9 minutes. What they told me was that Dr. Jeff De La Volpe, the lead ECMO surgeon, who I was very familiar with, had arrived and was in the process of adding another arterial line to keep him alive, again to bypass that failing right ventricle. They were doing chest compressions on him to keep the blood moving, making an already invasive surgical procedure exponentially complicated. They basically told me that only time would tell if he could have survived after being gone so long. Brain damage, just never coming out of it, that sort of thing. As soon as they allowed me, I went to his side. He looked awful, absolutely awful. I couldn't bear to see him so lifeless. A sweet angel of a nurse met my eyes after I had knelt by his bedside and prayed, and she said that she had prayed in agreement with me, and that really meant a lot. We waited in anticipation for signs of life. The next 24 hours were complicated but hopeful. He woke on his own much sooner than expected.
Surprise.
Like within an hour, and they didn't expect to see anything from him for a day or more if he was going to come out of it. He showed signs of comprehension and also a great deal of confusion.
But I woke up, or was kind of half in and out of consciousness, not knowing if I was still alive or if I was dead.
He kept asking. Every time he woke up, he would ask me, "Am I dead?" It was awful.
Yeah. So at that point I was begging God to let me know one way or another if I had died or not. And slowly I came out of it.
Got weaned off some of the medications that were keeping him sedated and
a lot of the confusion was being caused by the drugs that they were giving me because of the trauma that occurred.
So after that, it was a full probably 12 hours of him waking up from sedation off and on every 30 to 45 minutes with the tube still in place. So it was very difficult because vocally he couldn't speak. He could kind of lip, and I could try to lip read, and he was trying to write. I still have the paper where he wrote, questions, and it was heart-wrenching because while I was overwhelmed with joy that he was alive, he was communicating, he seemed to be mentally okay, it was heartbreaking because he kept asking me if he was dead.
Yeah, it was very strange to not be able to tell whether you're dead or alive. It's odd. I guess the not knowing of what exactly the situation was, or not being able to comprehend because the medicines I was constantly coming in and out of consciousness because of the meds, and because my body, this whole time, my body has fought against any type of sedation.
That was a blessing.
Being intubated, I wake up almost immediately right after, when I should have been out for hours or until the next day. I couldn't speak, and so there's a lot of, I guess, anguish in that, and not being able to communicate or hear what's going on around you while you're just struggling to survive.
He made it through those first hypercritical days, and Brandon grew stronger and stronger with each passing day. It was clear that transplant was the only means of recovery for him, though. With a great deal of work, Brandon's team got him accepted to UF Shands in Gainesville, Florida for rehabilitation and transplant. Several steps had to take place. We waited for acceptance from Shands, which was not easy because he was an exceptionally complicated and critical patient. Then we needed a bed there, medical jet transport, which is a major ordeal, as you can imagine, with all of his equipment. And of course, insurance approval for all of that.
But one by one, all these things fell into place.
I was now faced with leaving my children, my work, our dogs, our home within 24 hours notice for an undetermined amount of time. But I wouldn't have missed it for the world. June 8th was the big day. We had just a day's notice that everything was aligned for transport and admission. A whirlwind of a day, but it was so humbling to feel God's presence and peace in every detail. It was so clear that He was there blessing us. It went so smooth. Being at a new and very high-level hospital was refreshing and truly felt peaceful. Their PT and OT teams were absolutely phenomenal, and they had Brandon take his first steps the very next day. Watching his improvement was absolutely astounding and encouraging. Hospital staff quickly became our family and home away from home. Thankfully, we had a family friend with a horse ranch nearby, so they welcomed me to stay in their guest house. It was absolutely perfect. Another blessing and detail handled so flawlessly. It was quite a process to accomplish reconditioning and getting him infection-free to be listed for transplant, but we finally got approved on July 1st. Due to his condition, he was high on the list for receiving the 2 new lungs that he needed to survive. So his days were spent fighting to get stronger and in prayer of anticipation of receiving the news of a donor. which is a difficult thing to process because someone else has to lose their life.
But that morning, pretty early on in the morning, Dr. Pelias came in and told me that they thought they had another matching set of lungs. And we had been through it before. About a week prior, they thought they had a pair, but upon inspection, which is a whole process which is actually amazing, and there's a time frame which they have to do it. But they basically have general parameters for the lungs. And when it reaches that, then they actually send a team. They fly a team directly to the location.
And they inspect them.
Yeah, they do an inspection, and at that point they decide yes or no. And so the week before we had that happen where they flew out there, and when they got there, it was not what they wanted for me. But yeah, it was exciting to hear. I'm one that I don't count the chickens till they've hatched. So until it was hey, we're gonna get you to the OR, I wasn't getting my hopes up right away.
I was. So when I got there, of course, we were on cloud nine. There was paperwork to sign, which was beautiful that he signed that paperwork, because for many months he was unable to, have motor skills such as holding his phone and things like that. So that was really special, and there was just so much joy and anticipation of, that he finally made it to the point where we were going to get to turn around and get home. This was the day we'd waited for a long time. So the surgery was long and difficult due to the condition of his necrotic lungs, but it went smooth and very well. I remember watching his chest rise that night after the surgery with assisted breaths from the ventilator. It's not an instant recovery with the new lungs. His body had to relearn all the natural motions of taking breaths. But I remember in the dark room with the hospital lights, just watching his chest rise and fall, which it had not been able to do because his lungs previously, they were so sick there was no rise and fall. It was very special. So after just 2 days, they were able to remove the ECMO system from his body after 137 days of service. We got to say goodbye to that machine and those cannulas and the bleeding and the bandages and the restrictions of movement. It was awesome. Restoration was now in progress.
So after the surgery, once I was back in the room and conscious, I actually felt pretty good. They have some pretty good drugs on board.
The incision?
So the incision basically goes from armpit all the way across the chest to armpit. Cut it in half.
Yeah, cut the sternum, and so they call it a clamshell. So it opens up this way and between ribs.
Yeah.
All the ways for all the access.
Yeah, I mean, if you can imagine, your lungs are, the largest organ set that you have. So they need a big area to remove them and install the new ones. At first, I felt great. The breathing was still labored the whole entire time throughout this, and the worst parts, I always felt like I had run a marathon already and was continuing to have to run it every second of every day for months. Just that struggling to feel like I was getting a breath and I wasn't. My body couldn't. The machine was doing it for me, so my brain was struggling with the fact that it couldn't breathe. But the very next morning, they came in and got me up.
He was ready to go and see what that new experience would be like to have breath in his lungs.
Yeah.
At last, on September 8th, 204 days after he went in, Brandon walked out of the hospital with a second chance. A new life awaited us, a much different life, a brand new perspective to go along with it.
Our new life involves routines like medications every 12 hours, a lot of medications. Using great caution around others who may be sick, food bacteria risks, environmental risks, all because my immune system is suppressed by the drugs, because it has to be, so that my body doesn't attack and kill my new lungs.
Despite our burning desire to get home to our kids with some sense of normal life again, because he was all well now, it felt like, because it had been so bad for so long. However, we were required to remain in the area for about 4 weeks, which they felt that was rushing it, but Brandon pretty much said, I'm not waiting any longer than that. We have to get home to our kids. It is such a major surgery and body adjustment. They, rightly so, keep a very close eye on their patients. So we took some drives to see the area and made the most of our time.
There were still a lot of things, and my body just didn't have conditioning at all. Matter of fact, I went to check the tire one morning thinking I could just squat down.
This was right before we left.
Yeah. Checking tire pressures before we got on the road and thinking that I could just squat down and check the tire pressure, and my legs were not capable of doing that, and so I almost fell completely flat on my back trying to recover. Luckily, I was able to grab onto the car fender and hold myself up, but yeah, there were a lot of adjustments like that early on. I was a newborn baby walking again in the world.
You couldn't have stopped Brandon to be the one to drive us home. He's amazing. His determination and pure grit to just get through situations is pretty fantastic. We were welcomed home by our small town Jeep club with police escorts all the way through town. It was really special. A true hero's welcome.
I had a drive in me that I didn't want to waste my days. This life is such a gift, and it comes with more uncertainty than any regular life. I don't want to just survive. I want to really live. Being outdoors has always been my happy place. And having an RV allows us to better control our environment and what I'm exposed to, while still going on trips and enjoying nature. We definitely enjoyed having our own little traveling hotel room. We learned a bit more about our long-term RV needs that best suit our family. And then after a year in our first little RV, we upgraded to a more spacious fifth wheel.
And it's been wonderful.
Yes.
Really, really enjoy it.
I'm not sure exactly when we decided to create a YouTube channel, but it made sense. My desire was to be able to show one day, hopefully, my donor's family what their gift gave to me and my family.
So as far as the channel goes, it's also one of the best ways to reach a lot of people and share our story. We feel that God has a purpose for our lives through Brandon's restoration. So perhaps it starts by inspiring others to cling to hope when you need it, to believe in Him, and most importantly, to put their faith in Him. We can't imagine anyone getting through what we did without God's presence. We could feel and see His presence and Him moving the pieces the whole time. It was incredible and so humbling to know that He really was there making things happen, like clearly making things happen and helping us feel His presence.
So this channel is our way of saying thank you to my donor, to the doctors and the nurses, and of course to our Heavenly Father, who is with us every step of the way.
If you believe in second chances,
if you've ever gone through something that changed you forever,
We'd be honored if you'd subscribe and join us on this journey.
Hello, Dada. I hope that you're okay and that you get well soon, and I love you and I miss you. Bye.
We love you, Uncle Brandon. Get well soon. I love you. I love you. And I miss you, bananas.
Hey, Brandon. Just wanted to let you know, brother, hey, we're praying for you. Keep fighting the good fight. And we just want to make sure that you get home and make sure there's nothing that you need through all this. And, you know, we're thinking about you. We're praying for you. You just keep being strong, all right? We love you. Looking forward to seeing you back at the house.
What's up, Brandon? It's Matt from Demolition Ranch, off the ranch and those ranches. Look at that view. We're up here actually at the abandoned mansion right now. But anyway, someone just told me about your story, and man, I'm happy for you. Like, sounds like you've been through hell, and I'm glad to hear that the lung transplant went good. Man, that's insane. So keep at it, man. Keep your chin up. I hear you're doing awesome. I hear there are talks of you going home from the hospital soon. Wish you the best, man. Thinking about you, praying about you. Appreciate your support watching me, and I'll be anxious to hear that you got out of the hospital and you're doing well. Take care, man.
Brandon Goldberg here. Just want to throw out a little message, man. Uplift your spirits. Just want to let you know I'm the newest member of your fan club, dude. Apache Rifle Works and the entire city of Bernie is behind you. Also, obviously, our buddy at Demolition Ranch, Matt. So, like I said, just wanted to jump on the bandwagon and say, hey, what's up? And get well soon, my brother. Anything you need from us, you just let us know. Who's next?
1, 2, 3. Yeah!